In this lecture, we're looking at transitions, and that means linking sections of your presentation together. Two things we're going to cover briefly. First, the rationale for using transitions, and second, some expressions for transitioning. Okay, so why should we use transitions? Think of transitions as a landmark or a signpost to keep your audience informed of where you've been and where you're going in your talk. This makes it easy for everyone to be on the same page throughout your presentation. This is especially useful if you've got some difficult information that you need to communicate. This will ensure that people are paying attention at the right time and will keep them on track to listening to your entire talk. So think of transitions as closing one door and opening a new door. When you end a section, you close the door on it, and when you begin a new section, you open a new door and walk through it. Let's look at some expressions for ending a section right here. Okay, so that's a very, very common expression, especially among native speakers. So you can use that, but you have to be careful. It's difficult for some people to catch that, especially if the person is speaking very quickly. You may choose to use one of these other expressions. I think that covers section 1, or that's all I wanted to say about my first point. Now you're going to use expressions for ending a section together with expressions for beginning a new section. Let's move on to section 2. Or now let's look at the second section. Now I want to turn to my next key point. So take a look here at an example of how expressions can be used to end a section and open a new section. I think that covers section 1. Let's move on to section 2. Then you would talk about section 2, give them the information. That's all I wanted to say about section 2. Now let's turn to section 3. Okay, let's take a look at how some expressions are used to link parts of the presentation together in our expressions in action. Quite ready. Okay, I think that covers a brief history of English usage. Now let's take a look at where English is spoken. English is spoken in more than 70. I think that deals with where English is spoken. Let's move now to the final section, statistics. As I mentioned previously, English. So using expressions to end one section or close a door and begin a new section or open a new door in order to help your talk sound more organized and be easier to follow. In this lecture, we looked at rationale for using transitions, and we also looked at some transition expressions.